It is a dirty thing. I don't like doing it. I don't feel good selling. And that to me is the surest sign that you're doing it wrong.
Sales is not just one thing, right? There's not just one approach to selling. Now, I don't blame you if you don't know that there's different.
A lot of what trips people up is they've been taught all these objections and trying to find some perfect line.
I don't want people to think that there's no structure to this stuff.
You sell more, but your service will improve as a result of it.
That being said, though, I've made sales on every offer that I've made, like gotten on in the first week.
But bumping up. Welcome back, everybody, to the weekly sales jam. And Jason Canigan, our wizard of sales, is here, and we want to talk to you guys about something that a lot of us have heard lately. That the old sales is icky. It is a dirty thing. I don't like doing it. I don't feel good selling, and that to me is the surest sign that you're doing it wrong and you're following all the things that other people told you. The sales in general has this icky word where, like, a lot of people in their mind they conjure I don't know, like the used car salesman is like, let me tell you about
Mhm.
this great deal, and he's selling you some piece of shit that he's trying to pin off on you, and pass off his biggest problem and headache to you, and laugh at you when you walk out the door and go, can you believe that idiot just bought that fucking Toyota? Instead of the kind of deal where I compare our stuff more to like doctor based selling, where a
Yeah.
doctor's just wants to hear about your problems. If he knows how to help you, he's going to help you. If he doesn't, he's going to recommend you to a specialist. And he's really just there. If you're telling him my elbow hurts, he's just there trying to help you fix your hurt elbow if it's something he knows how to fix. So I wonder if you could just share a little bit. Like, let's talk about the whole sales is icky because you're doing
Yeah.
it wrong.
So, yeah, and Frankie and I have been talking for about 20 minutes before we even started up, just shooting the breeze and having fun talking about sales stuff. And I mentioned this over the last few days. I've run into a lot more people and people with experience uh, who, I don't know, this is a curse of knowledge thing, right? Like I look at it and I go, wow, sales is not just one thing. Right? There's not just one approach to selling. Now, I don't blame you if you don't know that there's different approaches to selling because it took me 10 years in the field
Yeah.
to ask the question, like, is there another way to sell? So in like 1994, 1996, somewhere in there, I picked up a copy of Tom Hopkins' How to Master the Art of Selling from a friend of mine's bookshelf. And that's what I thought sales was this, it's a manual of overcoming objections with rebuttals, and you got to memorize all this stuff, right?
Yeah, the
And
Ben
you got to know
Franklin
the
close.
features. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, all these closes and like, yeah, this memorization and stuff that I was like, ew, gross, right? And then I'd gone into the field after I graduated from college in the power generation industry, and I thought selling had to do with understanding the features, because I'm selling stuff with like, so many megavolts or whatever megawatts, right? And you got to pair things together. The engine's got to go with the gearbox. There's a control panel that you got to make, and I could design and sell that. Um, and so I thought the best design features matching with the customer's budget was what was going to win every time, right? And I went 10 years in before waking up one day, and I was manager of this business development manager of this IT firm, this little boutique IT firm. And one day it occurred to me like, there's got to be another way to sell. Is there another way of selling? And I started looking around, and on my drive home every day, there was, it's Vancouver, lots of bridges, lots of rain. Every time it rains, traffic just crawls to a stop on these bridges. So
Yeah.
it take me 45 minutes to drive to work from my bedroom community and an hour to an hour and a half to come home every day. And on the radio, I listened to this sports channel and they talked about Vancouver Canucks hockey team. And, I was like fully into that when I lived there. And this one guy advertised. He was a Sandler sales trainer, and his name was Randy. And his thing was, if you're deadly serious about selling, give me a call, right? And I had to hear this about 100 times. Finally, I gave him a call, and that's when I went and spent the 13, $1,000 plus Canadian on training, right? And that's when I learned that there was a different way of selling. And every class was like eyebrow raising, wow, what the hell? You can do that kind of thing moment, right? From learning disc to qualifying to understanding the decision making process, right? And that was the foundation of learning consultative selling, which is another way of doing it. A third way came out around 2015 from some HBR guys called the Challenger Sale. Uh, I've integrated that. And I was working with AI this morning, and it actually came up with because I was like getting it to help me with content ideas for videos, and it came up with consultative challenger as like a style of selling, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. Oh my God. And I went and I searched for the URL and I bought it this morning. So I have consultativechallenger.com ready to go and start putting some content into that. So yeah, so I don't blame anyone for not knowing that there's different styles of selling. It's just funny though when I'm like in their group or I'm connected to them and all I do is pump out this content telling you that, right? And showing you that and explaining different methods. But I guess in the mental filing cabinet, it's still going in the file underneath sales
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
there with the Hopkins stuff, right? The
Yeah.
the slimy trickster will say anything to make the sale. The wrestling the pig in the mud to make
Yeah.
the sale. The
Yeah.
Herb Tarlac WKRP in Cincinnati sales guy, who really was awful.
Yeah.
I think he made one sale the whole show.
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't have to be that guy. Follow the approach that we're talking about, and you can be nice,
Yeah.
right?
I would even
It's
say it's
yeah.
actually just a natural way to talk to people. It's
Hmm.
not, like we were kind of talking about this off air, and I like make this in my mind akin to a doctor, where when you come into a doctor is really just trying to consult with you to help fix your problems. That's
Hmm.
all they're really trying to do. And I get a lot of messages from people in my various programs that'll message me, person says this, what should I say next? And I look at it like a lot of what trips people up is they've been taught all these objections and trying to find some perfect line that they've forgotten just how to listen to people and ask intelligent questions. And
Yeah.
I think of my best friend from high school. I've known him since he was 15 years old. Him and his wife are going through a divorce right now. And it's a tough time for him. And it's obviously a difficult thing. And when he messaged me and said, hey, like, I think my wife and I are going to split up, my first question wasn't like, what's some perfect line to say? It's like, dude, what the fuck happened? What's going on? Like, and so like, when somebody says, hey, we're not getting enough phone calls, people are looking for some perfect response to it. And really, the question should be asking, like, hey, what the fuck is going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
Why are you not getting enough calls? How did you get here? Like, what kind of calls are you getting? When you say not enough, how many of them? Like, give me some details, give me some context. And I feel like this becomes lost when you think in your mind of selling, because I hear every day is like you do. People go, either I don't know how to sell,
Yeah.
or I'm no good at it. And I think if it was a friend and there was no credit card involved, you would know exactly what to say. You would actually, that process would come very natural to you.
Hmm.
And then because you think you have to say something perfect or do something perfect in order to get them to do it, you lose sight of like this at its core form is just identifying problems and helping people to solutions. And
Right.
also, kind of like you and I talked about off air, not forcing a fit. That means like if
Hmm.
like somebody said to me, "Hey, I talked with somebody for an hour and I have no idea how I should help them. What should I offer them?" And the answer is nothing.
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
talk to them for an hour and you still can't figure out what their problem is or how you would help them, like you probably shouldn't sell them anything, right? The flip side of that is if they told you in 5 minutes and you're like, "Oh, I know how to fix that," um, chances are you should like offer them something because like that's a natural fit. And so, like, to your point, as we've been talking about these, a lot of times the close is the most natural. Like, so what do you want to do now?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want help with that? Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
So
I do.
yeah, I mean, you don't go to the doctor and wait in the waiting room and then get put in the little consultation room and then the doctor comes in and you're like, "Oh yeah, hey doc, I got a broken bookshelf." Like, you
Yeah.
know, and what is the doctor going to do, right? Unless he has a secret hobby as a woodworker or
Well,
something like that, right?
we're
He's
gonna
yeah,
run up your Medicaid for
right.
the bookshelf.
Here's some screws and drywall
Yeah.
inserts
Can
and
I just
stuff.
say, as a
So
little
good.
aside, why is he always got to make you take your pants off and sit on that little butcher paper? I want to know.
God, DNA samples, gross. Um, and you don't go to the farmer and expecting to get some farmers market stuff, eggs and produce and stuff like that, and ask them to help you with an injury you have or something like that, right? So, and the farmer knows not to get involved with that kind of conversation, right? So as the um, person with the skill set, something to offer, you know, if you are talking to somebody and like Frankie's question to the friend getting divorced, or I think I'm getting divorced. What the hell happened? That's shining the flashlight around the room. That's
Yeah.
starting to flash.
Yeah.
Look around. You're going to spot something. Well, I was kind of a jerk, and I went out with this other woman, and she caught us, or what, or
Yes.
I have no
Exactly.
idea. I've been a prince the entire time. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe I guess I'm just boring or something
Yeah.
like that. Right? You're going to start down the path, and then you can ask more. Well, tell me more about that. You know, well,
Yeah.
if it's not that, what else must it be, right? Uh, I don't, and then you could decide, like, look, I'm not in the counseling business. I don't. You
Yeah.
might have someone to refer them to, or if you are a marriage counselor, well, then maybe, yeah, it might be time to ask some more focused questions. Now, I don't want people to think that there's no structure to this stuff, because
Yeah.
there is, right? This is a structured based selling thing, but it's not by rote. You don't go through this and ask question 2B because it tells you to,
Yeah.
right? You're like exploring down a pathway to find out what's going on here for
Yeah.
your prospective client.
Can
And
I just
then,
say, like, I
yeah,
consider that to be more like milestones that you have to go
hmm
through rather than like, exact lines and scripts
right,
and like, something you got to memorize. But, like we're going to pass through. What are the problems? That's a
right.
milestone we're going to
Need,
get
right?
through.
Like we've talked about.
Yeah.
I've got the three things: need, budget, personality fit that I teach you to go and uncover. Um, it doesn't have to be in that order necessarily. It usually does come out that way, but you know, if you get to budget first, or the person turns out to be a total jerk from the very
Yeah.
beginning, you might decide to qualify them out,
Yeah.
right? And there is nothing wrong with qualifying people out. There is
Yeah.
there's a lot right with it
Yeah. I
because you
can
don't
actually
want to
remember
get
the
these
first time I
people.
did it, by the way. There was
Yeah,
a dude and I could feel his folded arms. So he had somehow gotten in our call booking system and he knew nothing about us. And I could just tell
ah,
from the call and he was
no,
like basically like I forget what he said, but it was like, all right, convince me to buy this shit.
right,
And
no,
I was like, well, I don't even know which. And then so like you, is there a need for it? Tell me about
yeah,
what you're trying to do at your end. And he was very closed off with
hmm
information. And I was like, well, if you can't like tell me what's going on, like I don't have some secret thing. So like, why don't we
right,
just talk later? See you later. And I just hung up the phone on him like 2 minutes into a call.
no,
And
no,
to me, I didn't know you could do that. I thought because, we'd
ah,
schedule an hour, we have to go through this long hour song and dance. But I was like,
nope,
if somebody comes into the doctor and you're the knee surgeon and you go, what's going on with you? And he says, I won't tell you. And you say, well, I'm a knee surgeon. I fix knees. And he goes, I'm still not going to tell you. You're going to go, okay, well, if you do have something wrong with your knee, you can always rebook and come around later, but I'm going to pass you out of here because I know how to fix knees. That's what I do.
right, exactly, yeah. So stay in your lane. If you've got referral friends, partners, right? You send somebody to me about sales training, I'll give you a commission, right? Frankie, I'm sure would do the same for agency services, stuff like that, provided they're a good fit and that then that's okay. But if you don't know anybody and it's just not a fit, it's just fine to say, hey, sorry, it
Yeah.
doesn't look like we're a match. Now, what this exemplifies, though, is the need. It's a really good idea to give your prospective client who's going to get on a call with you or watch more videos or something, some kind of content to let them know who you are and what you're about, right? Before allowing them to get on like that, like educate them a little bit,
Yeah.
and make sure that they've seen it. I mean, we've talked about that before too.
Yeah.
Um, if it's a complicated or specific thing and they haven't watched the video about it or read the ebook about it, I'll probably, as a third party closer, hired gun guy, I'll probably bounce them back to it because the odds of taking them through that whole thing and getting to a sale at the end are really low.
Yeah.
Right? They're automatically going to put the brakes on because it wasn't their idea. You know, if they've read the ebook or watched the videos or whatever, then it's their idea to be on the call, right? They're already like, yeah, I think this would probably be a good idea. I just got a couple questions and you have to
Yeah.
prove to me you're
To
not
that point, can we
slimy.
talk about like this
Yeah,
is way less about convincing people?
yeah.
Like a lot of people, like I feel like the reason why so many people feel like this is icky, feel like I'm not good at selling,
Mhm.
is because they got somebody and they're going, this is a person over here who has a credit card that I want. How do I convince them to get over here and buy my shit? And it becomes a lot easier when you look at that like as a friend, as a collaborative process of like, tell me what you're dealing with. And if it's something I know how to help you with, then I'm going to recommend something that helps you. And if it's not, I'll try and do my best to point you in the right direction of somebody who does. And either way, I'm going to do my best to leave you better off. And I find, like just as a mental picture, I had a mentor who explained this to me once, is most people view this as a negotiation where we're on opposite sides of the table
Mhm.
and we're sort of like fighting over some scraps into the middle and we're hardcore negotiating. He goes, the place you really want to be is you want to take your chair, go around 180 degrees on the same side of the table as them and go, tell me what you see from here.
Mhm.
And what you're trying to do is figure out what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, what's happening, where they're trying to get to. And if it's something you know how to assist with, then assist them and help them. But what you're not trying to do is convince anybody ever. Like I actually don't even feel like convincing is part of the deal. In fact,
Mhm.
if somebody ever says convince me, my answer is nice,
Yeah,
nice talking. You go convince yourself. And
yeah.
what you'll find, by the way, is it makes for better overall clients too, not just like more cash collected, which it absolutely does. But you when people come on board, they did so willingly, not like
Right.
coerced into it. Like I think of I mentioned this before, but my biggest white label partner in my first agency was a big Native American guy named Rick. So he looked like Native
Yeah.
American Fabio. He was like 260 pounds, like shredded dude. And his wife was a plastic surgeon, and he would go to all the conferences and sell like a bunch of websites. And then he didn't do SEO, and so he would dump a lot of that fulfillment to me. But what he didn't tell me is how he sold them. And eventually, years later, I got to find out that he would meet a plastic surgeon at a conference. And he went to a conference like literally, if you want to, in certain industries like plastic surgery, there's one every weekend. So he was somewhere every weekend at a different conference. And he would just pull out his Rolodex on the day off and go, who do I know in Atlanta? And then these are the six surgeons I've been talking to. And he would drive to their office and almost like kick the door in and go, I'm not leaving until you
Right.
buy a website. And he was physically intimidating. And so what we found is like 50% of the time they would buy a website begrudgingly, I might add, because they weren't planning on buying a website that day. And he was like very persistent and not taking no for an answer. And 50% of the time it was like, Rick, you need to fucking leave or I'm calling the police on you. Like that was his style of selling. And what we sort of experienced downwind of that is you could feel the tangible distrust
Mhm.
after somebody had bought because they didn't really feel like it was their decision to get into this. It was just like I just wanted this guy to fucking leave, and he wouldn't leave unless I bought a damn website. And it was easier just to buy the website than to have a physical altercation with a beefcake who could probably kick my ass. And what you're describing here, Jason, because I just want to like that sales gets a big word is
Right.
actually being on the same side of the table as somebody trying to actually help them get what they want as best you
Right.
can and having a friendly conversation with a friend about it and not forcing your thing. Like if your friend said, you know, hey, I need some eggs from the farmer's market and you don't know how to do that and you don't know where it is and that's not a problem you can solve, you're going to say, sorry, bud, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's no different if they're asking for a solution. So I just want to be clear because like you said, sales is this big umbrella word that has a lot of icky, used car salesman, pushy. And what we're really talking about is like we're actually helping people. Like if you can
Right.
really internalize that this is a helpful process, that some of the time you're going to get a credit card to help people and some of the time you're going to direct them to another resource, but in every case, you're going to do your best to assist them and hear them and point them in the right direction. I think it's like a totally different thing than what most people conceive of, quote unquote, sales to be.
Right. Right. And if people take the wording that you said a little while back about, hey, we're going to sit down and I'm going to hear what you have to say and ask a few questions and see if I can help you or not. If I can help you, we'll go down this road. If I can't, we'll see if I can recommend somebody else. That's a great example of what's called an upfront contract or agenda and expectations at the start of the call.
Mm.
Right. Most people don't use that. They should. I
Yeah.
do. And it sets the scene, right? And for most prospective customers, they've never heard such a thing before, right? And so if you say it slowly enough so they can actually hear it and understand it, a lot of the time they're going to actually stop and go, "Whoa, that's different." Okay. And so it's an example of like how to get around to that side of the table with them. I've also heard that referred to as sitting on a bench with them,
Yeah.
right? You're both sitting and facing out, looking at the park or whatever, right? At the world as it goes by.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's very easy to do that. It's straightforward to do that. Um, and the results are you get clients who feel that you're on their side, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if we've talked about this enough, but the second sale with somebody is a whole lot easier to make than the first if you did a good job with the first thing,
Yeah.
right? And it's because of this, because they see, yeah, man, it worked, and this guy's out for me. He's on my side, right? And so, yeah, again, a totally different feel about what you may have heard or felt or experienced sales or selling has been until now.
Yeah. I love that, my dude, because I just feel like I think you actually like if you're listening to this, you actually are good at selling. You just have to unlearn all of the stuff you've been programmed to believe that you got to have some magic line, some objection script, that the only way to move forward, like I almost always people are asking me for like what's the perfect thing to say? And
Yeah,
often the perfect thing to say is ask them more about what they fucking mean, right? Like I would
yeah,
say eight
yeah.
times out of 10, my recommendation is I don't okay, so he says he's not getting enough leads and like his crews are standing around. Like how many leads did they get? How
Yeah.
much standing around are they
Get
doing? How
specific.
dire is it? You're breaking up with your wife. Is it like, hey, we're casually discussing the idea, or is it like she threw a plate at my fucking head yesterday, right? Like how far down the line are we in this issue? Like, yeah, and I propose to you guys that if this is a friend, this comes to you naturally. You do not seek a perfect line. You do not seek some perfect script, some magic thing to say. You just ask a question and shut the fuck up and listen. And it's
Yeah.
really no different. It really is no different. I like that bench analogy. I'm going to use the bench analogy because the questions you're asking are like, Jason said, like, help me understand what it is you're seeing. Like, what's happening in your world that causes you to need this at this current moment? And if you talk for an hour and you can't find something that you can like a hole in the bucket that you can plug, don't sell them anything. I know it
Yeah.
sounds like you have to like push towards the sale, but a lot of times, like, this is how my calls or conversations, because we do a lot of this over chat these days,
Mhm.
is sorry, dude, I have no idea. Like that's just not my
Right.
wheelhouse. I'm gonna ask around and see if I can find somebody who can help you with that.
I think the common denominator here that I'm feeling is just for those watching and listening to us, check internally. And if you're feeling a great state of tension in these conversations, you're doing it wrong. You know,
Yeah.
that's probably a big indicator. If you're not relaxed, right? Like throw the whole sale out, right? The whole concept of I gotta make the sale, just throw that out, right? Take the pressure off yourself for doing that. You know you got some milestones to hit, right? Need budget, personality fit, understanding these things. And then ask yourself at every point, like, do I really understand what's going on here for this guy, right? That, oh, he's not getting enough leads. Okay. Well, you could leave it there and say, hey, let me get you more leads, but you're not doing them a good service in rushing to the solution because you haven't understood why do they want more leads, right? What quality of leads, what quantity of leads, what have they done until now that hasn't worked, that they're afraid of, that's going to
Yeah.
be in the way of a sale, right? Oh, I need to keep my work crews going. We've talked about that a lot. I want to upgrade the quality of my the jobs that I'm doing, right? Bigger dollars, more time at one
Yeah.
location rather than hitting 50 people's roofs for $100 a piece and fixing some shingles and having to run all over the place or
Can
something.
I also add too that a lot of times if they fully understood their own problem, they probably would have solved it. So I would say like 19 times out of 20, there are some false assumptions embedded into what they believe they need to do. And so if you immediately rush into the solution, you're probably gonna like do exactly as they're doing already and solve the wrong problem. And you'll try and address it at like a surface level symptom kind of thing
Right.
instead of
Giving
going,
them more is not good enough.
yeah,
Yeah, by itself. There
yeah,
has to be some kind of quality to it. And like anybody with good technical sales experience will tell you, the person who understands and can explain the problem best or help the prospect understand the problem best is probably going to win that sale. And the
yeah,
reason is that we wouldn't have known before 2015 is that the challenger sale of the valuable insight being embedded into that prospect's mind is what got made, right? In that, oh my God, you helped me see this different than I had seen it, right?
yeah,
Oh, so that's the real, oh my gosh. Well, what factor that leads to trust faster? Nothing exists faster than that, right? As far as like, oh, wow. Yeah. All right. I
yeah,
want to work with you because you help me see this thing differently. You know what you're talking about. You see it my way, right? All these things that will go through their head and make it a whole lot easier to say yes. And again, it's totally a different experience than, well, I don't know, Frankie, you told me all about the features and benefits of your thing. Not all of them apply to me. Some of it was kind of boring. I don't know. I got all these unfocused questions over here. They're undeclared. We haven't even explored any. I don't know. And then what are they going to do? They're going to bubble up objections. And then you're going to be like, yeah, let me grab onto that big floating objection bubble there,
yeah.
try and
And then
wrestle it
you're
away.
trying to handle it way too
Yeah,
late. Like it doesn't matter
yeah,
whether you use the Ben Franklin
right.
whatever kind of close. You're just too late down the line. It's
Yeah.
funny too
Doesn't
because I
matter whether you're right or wrong. It doesn't matter. You could be right, but they're emotionally set against it.
yeah,
And us in our monkey chimp minds, we're emotionally based, right? We're
yeah.
scared easily
I'll
and
tell
we
you.
rationalize later.
I'll tell you a phrase that I use a lot to kind of like some of the stuff you're talking about is like when you're talking to people is a lot of it sounds like this, it sounds like that's happening. Like am I close to the mark? And
Uh-huh.
until they can repeat and go, that's exactly what it is. And I had a mentor years ago go, imagine like you're an avid golfer, but every time you golf for like a lot towards the later in the game, you start like just having elbow pain in your right elbow. Well, imagine you and another guy are sitting at the country club after, and the guy looks over at you and he says, "Hey, Frankie, I notice you around here a lot. You ever notice when you go golfing that if you do it for a long time, you get a pain in your right elbow, but it doesn't happen the whole round. It's more like in the back nine towards the later part of the golfing round." And then you go, "Yeah." And if he goes, well, I got to go right now. I'm going to pick up my tab and I'll see you later. And he starts walking out the front door. You're going to chase him out the fucking front door and go, what's the other half of that? Like, how do I fix that problem?
Right.
Right. And I feel like a lot of it is really just getting it to that where you can tell them it sounds like your elbows hurting on the back half, of the game because
Right.
you got this kind of hitch in your swing. We talking about the same kind of thing?
Yeah, and there's some common pain point language there, if that's what it turns out to be for that niche, right? That you
Yeah.
can use again and again and again. Once you hear it, figure it out, don't change it.
Yeah.
Don't try and flower it up. Say it in the clunky, ugly way they told it to you, because those
Yeah.
are their words and they're authentic. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to feel icky. There are different styles of selling, and most people are familiar with the first one, which is the most common, which I call Tom Hopkins' style of selling because he wrote that book, How to Master the Art of Selling, right? In the maybe the late 80s, something like
Yeah.
that, right? And I ran into it in the 90s, and like you can sell that way, and for some people, that's the way they like to do it, right? They kind of like to fight and they like to memorize and have this stuff ready, and it works for them. It's their personality style, right? It's not mine. Consultative was great for me. You mean I get to sit there and ask questions? And if the person doesn't engage, I send them away. Awesome. Right? I've talked about Mahan Khalsa a lot. Let's get real or let's not play, right? If you get this prospect who's on, and I get this a lot with corporate executives. They try to be the big shot and be like, "Oh, I don't know about problems, you tell me." And then I'll tell you whether it's worth having a conversation or not. And I'll just leave, that kind of thing, because that person is just totally arrogant. If they won't tell you anything about what's going on, then there's nothing there. So at that point, it would probably be helpful to work on your pain point language to get something
Yeah.
of a lure in there. But what if it's early in your entrance into that marketplace, and you don't know the niche very well? You could do information interviews. You could do the Google search, the Reddit search, right, that you mentioned for what's the worst part about being XYZ, that kind of thing, and get some language to start off with. Um, but it would be nicer if you could sit down with somebody. Like I got a whole cornucopia of ways of helping people. It's not a very narrow thing, right? It's a very wide thing, a range of places in sales, operations, software, web design, inventory management, stuff like that, that I could help them with. And so I would prefer to sit down with somebody who could tell me the truth and was like, oh God, if I just unload on somebody and tell them about my problems, they could help me with some of them. Right? That's what I would like, but you're not always going to get that. Um, so, but there's a situation that as a newbie I would avoid, right? As somebody who
Yeah.
just isn't open to talking, I would move on. But yeah,
Yeah. I
sales
think
can
there's,
feel very normal,
just going
very
to say, I think
comfortable.
there's two really big takeaways that, Jason mentioned in here. One is that um, if you're not feeling relaxed in it,
Mm.
that's a sure sign you're doing it wrong because you're too focused on getting to where you're going. Like imagine a guy is on a date with a girl and all he's trying to think about is how do I get her into bed instead of just enjoying time with her. Ironically, the more he enjoys time with her, he's probably going to have a better time and they're probably going to end up in bed far more likely than if he's trying to say some perfect line. And the other thing too, that besides that you mentioned he should be feeling relaxed is stop rushing to the solution. Like you
Mm.
guys are, I see this a lot is how do I get the person to go from here to there? And I'll tell you, you can actually do it pretty quickly. Like we do this in text.
Yep.
Usually, like I can close sales often within a matter of like 4 or 5 back and forth kind of sentences. But part of the reason is because we don't skip the fundamentals of what do you really need? What are you really trying to do? What are you really seeing here? What is this? And then it sounds like this. Am I in the ballpark? That's a X dollar sort of problem. Do you agree with me on it? Here's the solution I've created for that. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in? If they say no, I don't go pull out the Ben Franklin clothes and magic master some magic line. It's totally okay for them to say no, right? Like if,
Yeah.
hey, I'm just trying my best to help and assist you with what you got. But those two big things of like you said, if it was a real friend bringing you that problem and there was no credit card involved, you would slow down. It's only because you're rushing towards the sale that you're actually pushing it off, and therefore it's your own sort of desperation. It's your own sort of need to make a commission. And if you just focus more on really listening to people and helping them, and less about how do I lead that into a sale, not only will you sell more, but your service will improve as a result of it. Like one of the reasons, like we figured out, so like I would ask attorneys, like, what do you really want? And they'd say, I really want the big cases. And then I'd say, like, what? And then they told me. And then I realized when they told me like the 4 or 5 kind of cases they want, I'm like, we were running Facebook ads. I figured out one of those that could be easily targeted with Facebook ads. We made our offer 10 times better by like, we'll aim it at the big shit that you really want. And you don't think of that shit if you're too busy trying to force your Facebook ad solution instead of like actually
Right.
hearing them and what they're trying to do. Hey, I never really thought about that. I should create a solution to help you get the big cases because that's more money for both of us.
Right. Right. And you're allowed to be excited, right? You're allowed to be excited for them and the solution and wow, this is a great fit. It's actually going to matter. You're allowed to, if they have a really bad limiting belief, just like you would with a friend, you're allowed to try and persuade them if you want, right? Hey, Frankie, I'm noticing some resistance here. Would you mind if I coached you on something? Or I think there might be something I could coach you on. What do you think about that? And they could tell you to take a hike, or they could open up, right? It doesn't mean that, well, all right, they're just totally not receptive or something like
You
that.
know,
I better walk out of here.
or they
You
have
got
a credit card,
no
so we can't
choice,
be real with them.
right? You're allowed to, and I don't see that as putting pressure. I see that as moving a dam out of the way or something like that, right? Dismantling something so that the energy can
Yeah,
flow.
but I mean, just like
Uh,
just like the friend, right? Like the friend
yeah,
says, "Hey, my wife is leaving me," and then he tells me all the shit she did. I might say, "Hey, listen, buddy. Like it's been my
right.
experience. It's probably a two-way street. There's some shit in there you did. You seem to be resistant about like not telling the truth about your part of it. Are you
Right,
open to some feedback on that? Like you're allowed to say that in a sales conversation, just
right,
the same.
right, right. And that's just something that you could do with practice, right? And some experience in doing that. I don't know if I would do that on my very first call. Um, that being said, though, I've made sales on every offer that I've made, like gotten on in the first week of having it with like 2 or 3 calls a day, right? Within, what is that, 10 calls?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a sale, right? I might get discouraged about it later on or something like that, and get into a slump or something. Uh, there have been some where one a couple years ago where it just I didn't think it was really helping people,
Yeah.
and that just took the gas out of it for me, right? That could, and the person who
Yeah.
brought it to me is a really great guy, and I trust him on just about everything. But this one time, and they pretended that they had it all figured out before I got there. Like, oh yeah, we have experience with this offer, we know how it works, and it turned out they'd never sold it before.
Mm.
And yet I still sold it the first week, right? And so in those situations, I must be able to roll with it a little bit. But yeah, so don't think that, oh well, I've got to stay inside these lines, and no, you can pretty much say anything.
Yeah.
Um, that prospect's got the right to react in just about any way, and who knows what they've got going on with limiting beliefs and their conditioning and programming and stuff like that, right? They're going to react. Um, I don't want to get too far off topic here, but I just want to mention that, if it's authentic and you're relaxed about it, and look, like this isn't about me even making the sale. This is about me helping you uh, see what's actually going on, see the truth about what's actually going on. I think that's valuable and valid, right? And you probably should do it.
Yeah.
You know, you can decide it's just going to be too much of a fight, and I don't need this to make $2,000 or whatever. I can go on to my next call, and it'll be so much easier rather than wasting my time doing professional counseling for this person, right? You can do that, but the option's open to you. So I think what happens with the icky based selling is people don't know what they're supposed to be doing in sales. They think it's about features and benefits, overcoming objections with rebuttals, wrestling the pig in the mud. They
Yeah.
don't want to do that, quite rightly, right? They get tense when there's some resistance, and that resistance could be from the prospect not understanding their own reality.
Yeah.
Right? What's going on? And you could help them with it, but they misinterpret it as like take it personally, right? Easy
Yeah.
to do. Oh no, there's a problem with
Yeah.
me or the offer. Now I gotta really stress the benefits of it and try and convince them and all this stuff. And yeah, that that is icky, right? Like no argument from me there. And so imagine being relaxed, sharing the energy, reproducing the idea over there in their head, exploring around in their world on the same side as them on the bench, like we talked about. Hey, what's going on over there? Right? That's related to what we're doing. Have you ever thought about it this way? No? Okay. Well, what do you think? Right? And then the just learning more about their world, right? What have you tried? How big is it? Right? These things. And then they sound so straightforward, but in the moment,
Yeah.
because of the tension,
Yeah.
I
And
think
thinking
it's
you have to
easy for all thoughts to just go tweedledee,
yeah.
like little birds flying
Yeah.
away. You're
Thinking
like,
you
I
have
don't
to
know what to
rush
do.
towards the sale and looking 10 steps ahead and going, how do I end up there instead of just being present with them and their problem and
Right,
their issues and what's happening and all that now, for
right.
sure.
Sales have happened so easily for me that in these third party, you know, hired gun roles, I've gone to my boss at the time, whoever I was reporting to at the company, and said, God, I didn't even feel like I sold anything. Like that was too easy. I didn't even have to work for it. And I had one guy whose name was Guy, come back to me and go, that's the way sales is supposed to be when it's a good fit, right? And remind me of it. This again was a few years ago. And it's a great reminder, right? There's no wrestling there. And it wasn't a lay down. It was just, oh, you got a problem we can solve? Oh, it's worth it to you? Okay. And compared to the size of the investment, it's a reasonable ratio. Okay. Yeah, and it looks like you'll actually do the thing and be a pleasure to work with and, talk to our staff and give us the feedback that we need and do the actions. All right. Well, you want to get started? And like that, that's it.
Yeah, I know.
It's not, oh shit, the giant boar with the tusks is out there or the bear is out there. Let me move in and wrestle, you and risk getting wounded, right? If that's the view on selling, of course it would be scary. And you'd have a lot of tension. I'd be freaked out if I had to
Yeah.
do that too. So
Yeah.
just our message today is sales is a big banner word. There are many styles of selling. I'm pretty good at three of them. I'm sure there's others. I just invented the fourth with that challenge, a consultative challenger. So, yeah. I couldn't believe it. It's a two-word thing, right? A URL, and it actually is out there. Um, and so, you can do that just the same. And if
Yeah.
you notice the tension, I think that's probably your key takeaway, folks, today. If you're in a sales call and you notice the tension, back off. Just back off, right?
Yeah.
From it all and go, ah, okay. Wait, I was thinking before we go any further, you I really want to understand what's going on in your world. Right? You can even say, hey, you know what? I think we rushed. I rushed. I'm sorry. It's on me. Could we start over? I want to know more about this, right? In this area of their world, right? And what they're experiencing. Like you can do that. Like most people will go along with you. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They
Totally.
won't be like, you son of a bitch. No,
How dare you
you
ask me
ruined it.
questions?
Yeah. Yeah. Or your sales technique was so terrible, I don't even want to talk to you any further, right? It'd have to be pretty darn bad. And you wouldn't have the self-awareness to turn it around. I think, and
Yeah.
even ask that question if you were like that. So, um, but yeah, I just want to give people a sense of what the
I
available
dig it, my
options
dude.
are.
Let's talk sales on fire because I got to jump here.
Okay. So we got this program of mine that's been selling since like 2011, and I've been adding to it in chunks. There's three, volumes to it now. Um, and that doesn't mean that you got to just sit there and like watch it all and need to know it all. Um, there's a lot of technique up front in module one, which has helped a lot of people, where I dig deeper into the stuff we've been talking about. The second section is all about personality types, right? Behavioral profiling, which is the DISC stuff, dividing society into four types of people so that you learn to recognize them and how to sell to them because each one wants a different thing. And four is pretty easy to remember. Okay. I also get into some advanced technique stuff like that agenda and expectations in there. And then Sales on Fire Volume 3 is like after the Challenger sale came out, I started adding to that, explaining how to get the consultative skill set to work for the Challenger sale, valuable insight goal. Um, so you didn't have to throw out everything that you learned, right? Which is what I did not want to do, right? I learned all this stuff and know how to use it. Why would I want to throw that away? We get into stuff like contortion, which is when you see your prospect acting really strangely and looking a little sick. Like, what's going on, and how to deal with that. And I talk about how to organize information to make a sale in a certain structure. And once I teach you that, you're going to start seeing it everywhere, everywhere, from internet memes to stuff people say in Facebook posts to even more advanced selling. So it gives you everything that you're going to need to know to sell through video calls like this on the phone or in person. Then Frankie has kindly put in there as a huge bonus his stuff on how to sell through like video and
Yeah.
text and messaging and stuff like that.
Yeah, can I
So
just add, like, I know
yeah,
it's really sexy to people when they find out they can close in video, but everything Jason has talked to you guys about, which is like really solid fundamentals and understanding their problems or why we're able to sell over video,
yeah,
you do that long enough and you figure out like the same kind of things they ask you again and again, and then you preemptively then do the sales call as much as you can through video. Then what happens is they will pop for you guys without even talking to people because you'll be able to have that conversation as a video format.
right, right. It's just under 3,000 for the investment, which is super cheap compared to many other training programs that I've been let in to see. I'm connected to a lot of other experts, and they'll send me people's program logins and say, "What do you think of this?" And I'll go, "Wow, this gives you a quarter of the content that I do for four times the price." You know, and it's like, would you rather spend $12,000 and get a sliver of this stuff? And of course, they can't give you some of this stuff, especially the Module 3 stuff, because they don't know it. It's
Yeah.
my stuff, right? Um, but
And
this should set
the
you up.
biggest value, by the way, that I
Yeah.
think you guys will get from it, that just before we forget, is that we will both personally review your sales stuff and help you dial it in wherever it's sort of going off the rails. So if you guys are having, these sort of fighting conversations, whatever, if you got a recording of it or you got, a text transcript or whatever, we can usually almost point out exactly. And by the way, most times, by the way, when your sales calls and conversations go off the rails, they're happening earlier than most people think. Like you're
Yeah.
experiencing the problem at the closing, but it actually usually happened in the beginning of the call with the real basic stuff.
Right. Right. That investment is a tax deductible training expense, so take your receipt to your accountant. Um, and it should pay you back really fast, right? If you go out and you use it, a few calls, you should make a sale. One sale should pay for it, right? It should work that way. Um, what else can we say about it? I don't know. I can't
Well,
convince you. If you want a structured way of selling, if you want to be relaxed and understand what's going on in a sales conversation and have the tools to deal with it that don't require you to act weird, then this is the way to get it.
yeah.
Um, I have trained a lot of teams. I've trained a lot of the teams of gurus that you know. There was one time a few years ago, I was in a group and somebody had asked for help with sales training. And I said, the last four people who commented, I trained their teams. And not one of them had a word to say after that because it was true. It's like, okay, you know, everybody wants to jump up. There's a lot of young people who want to jump up and say they're the experts. Well, they learned it from somebody before. I mean, I've been having people steal my stuff, whatever I put out publicly since like 2011. It's not new, right? I had a guy lift a whole script of mine and then put it out as his own. And when I confronted him about it, he was like, "Oh, you shared it in public, so I assumed that I could just own it." He didn't stay connected to me for very long. That's over 10 years ago now, but still,
Ooh,
the stuff you remember. Okay, you got to go do your thing.
I gotta eat.
Yeah, nice.
All right.
Somebody will bring me food later.
All
Thanks, Frankie.
right. We appreciate you guys. Hey guys, if you like this video, you may also like my best-selling book here, Beyond the Agency Box. It is all about scaling a digital marketing agency while eliminating meetings and phone calls. We actually sell our stuff phoneless. We don't have any client meetings, and we also hire our team entirely without meeting phone calls, which allows us to, like actually kind of live a life. I've laid out the entire blueprint and everything you need to know, getting clients, onboarding, setting expectations, scaling, building a team, you name it. It has been a bestseller on Amazon now for over 5 straight years, but now you can get it even cheaper than you can get it on Amazon. So I can't tell you the exact price because it may change when this video is released, but there should be a link to it below, either in the description of the video or as well as a pinned comment. So if you're interested in that, check out that video and you can get a copy for super cheap.